Hello, welcome back to Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald,
On board.
and we are giving you a review of Golem by Cranio Creations.
Yes. If you're watching this on YouTube, which is the only place you could be watching it,
Yeah.
if you check out the videos right before this, you would have saw we made a how-to video for how to play this game as a two-player game, as well as our playthrough, which we completed this past week. So now we're giving our honest review rating, bunch of different categories, scale of 5, and see if this is a must-play by Bald and Board Games.
Yeah, just so you know, the score has to be at least a 3 based on our overall average between my scores and Steve's for this to be considered a certified must-play by Bald and Board Games.
Yes.
But quick overview of Golem. It is a worker placement style game where you are doing 3 actions on your turn, and that's essentially the worker placement thing. You're choosing which actions to do, which are going to net you resources, which you can then use to increase your scoring and the abilities available to you. So on the consecutive turns, you can do potentially more actions and more and more and more while controlling a character and a golem on this board. You'll be controlling 3 characters and many golems you can put out. They're going to be moving up this board, which again could net you more resources. They could cost you resources, so on and so forth. So very typical kind of worker placement style game. The fun thing about this is it does have a synagogue of sorts, which is like a little tower, which is kind of like a dice tower that you put the marbles into. Actually, do you want to just pull out the one that we have? The one that we have is not the one that comes in the base game. I upgraded the components for this, but we have this nice, lovely synagogue here, which has a tray. You put the marbles on the backside, and they come out in different orientations, which will influence how you end up actually, doing your actions.
Yeah. It's 4 rounds of those 3 turns. If you're interested, again, in more information, check out our how-to.
All right. You want to take it right to the rule book?
Sure. I'll start with rule book rating. So rule book, pretty decent-sized rule book here. I'm giving this a 4.
All right.
So the main reason for that, so overall, what you can do in your actions and all of that, once you get to learn the game, makes sense. Like you have your marble actions on this board over here. You have your rabbi actions as well. So you're gaining different resources, doing different actions. Pretty clear. It goes through in pretty good detail how to go through the phases of the game. The main reason I dock it is because in the back of this rule book, there is an appendix. The appendix goes through all of the tiles, which there's like 7 different stacks of tiles that we encounter. None of these are put on a player card. They do give you a very small player card that shows you the turn order on one side, the endgame scoring on the other with just some symbols. But I definitely think they could have had a 1-page player aid with a lot of this, especially for the ones that you're interacting with turn after turn. So, for example, the character card, it just sits up here. We both see it. But when it comes to a lot of the 3 pathways as well as the rabbi actions, it'd be much more convenient to have a player card in front of me so I can plan ahead without holding the rule book as my opposing players are going, trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah, agree there. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze.
COVID.
My goodness. No. All right. Well, I gave the rule book a 5. And I gave it a 5 based on how quickly I was able to digest the rule book and how clear everything was. The rule book has tons of pictures for each section, and it's organized in a way that I appreciate, to where it goes over, of course, the setup and stuff, and then it goes over the fact you can do actions, but then it has the development actions like split up nicely and individually in a very clear way. So you can jump right to like, oh man, what is the red development action? You don't have to instead go to a development page and try to find the red one. It's very easy to go to. I agree that they could have had a card, but they could have used the back of this book instead of putting the cover on the back of the rule book again. They could have had this back page, like a lot of books do, be the actual reference. So all you have to do is have this out, ready to go. But the fact that it is at the back of the book at least, and it's easy enough to kind of open up like, okay, this is what I need. And just because there is so much, I didn't dock it for that. So for clarity's sake, being able to digest this within a day's time to the point where it's easy enough to jump in and play and set up and we're not having to go back to it a lot for really a lot of like rules things, that made it a good rule book for me. So 5 it is.
Although we still missed the rule. And how we played the game.
Oh, we did. We did. That was
like usual.
That was for setup, though. Not gameplay.
That is true. That's true.
So I'm not going to dock us for that.
No, that's docking us, not docking the game.
Yeah. All right.
We're going to have the game give a Bald and Board review on how well Bald and Board played the game.
Yeah, we'll have you guys do that. So now we have gameplay. So I'll start. Gameplay, I gave a 4. And I gave a 4, which is good because I like the amount of things that you can do. I like all the options that are available to you. The thing that dropped it for me is there's almost too much going on, too much to do. You know, trying to balance moving your golems and trying to move your character and trying to do your board, it feels like you can only ever really do one thing well. And it would have played way better to me if you could actually combo more to be able to do multiple things well. The only comboing that I found in both times we played this, and that last time especially, was getting those artifacts down here.
Yep.
And that was the only thing that actually felt that good. Like there needed to be more of that potential comboing in each section of this board. So that way, if you wanted to focus on all three, you could kind of push them all forward. And my characters never moved because I was never really incentivized to really take a marble of their color specifically to move them along.
Yeah.
So I think gameplay wise, that definitely knocked off a point for me and dropped it down to a 4. The good things for why I made it a 4 is because of all the avenues you can choose to take. You can choose to focus on one area, and if you can really get into that area like I did the artifacts, then you can really bank in on points. And the randomness of the marbles coming out is fun. The pass portion to taking actions, I think, was a superb addition to the game to where, okay, I don't have any marbles, so I'm going to just pass, take one out, put to the side, so that way it's no longer bogging up the marble thing. Or that way, because if I know Steve needed a marble to help him out, I'm going to pass and take that blue one so he can't have it. So I do like that whole concept. This whole synagogue marble concept is a really nice touch.
Yeah. Yeah, so for my side, I'm giving it a 4 as well. Similar comments. I do love all of the things you can do. There's a bunch of comboing, but to Nick's point, there is an not overwhelming amount of things, but it's just a lot of figuring out which one do you focus on. I definitely think this was built as a 4-round game. I think it should have been a 5-round game. I think that would have flowed a little bit better, especially with some of the objective cards. They're almost impossible to complete 2 or 3 of them of different types because it's too hard to go up all the way on this track at the same time trying to get 7 books and move your characters. With the character movement, the big thing I saw was you have the character cards, and you're looking at the marbles on those cards and being like, oh, I want that special ability, or I want that 3 gold coin pieces, but I need to take only these 2 marbles. So therefore, one of the 3 characters or students is always suffering. That you're not able to move them along because you're focusing on those 2 marble colors.
For me, it was really like 2 of my students that suffered in both games, and only one of them I pushed forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an imbalance on like, okay, if you want us to focus on these character cards and trying to get those, well, then you can't really focus on all your students, but you have objective cards based on the students, as well as the students need to move forward, so your golems are cheaper during that phase. So yeah, there is a lot of things that you have to consider. So I think adding one more round would make it a little bit better. I do love the artifact side and the fact that you have like 3 different development structures here too with the gameplay.
So we have the artifact side is yellow side. The middle is the clay, and kind of this top bar and this bottom blue section is your knowledge there, your study. And they're pretty much color-coded to blue, red, and yellow, which is really nice. So
I definitely like that. If you've watched our past videos, we've done a lot of the Vital Lacerda games. And they have that style where you have different things working on your player board or on the game board. So I definitely enjoy that. But little docking for same thing. How many things there are to do, as well as it needed a little bit more length of time to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a lot of things to do. And I think the thing that really probably made this stand out and suffer for us is that we went through all of the Vital Lacerda games beforehand to where Vital Lacerda has a lot of things you can do. But as you get deeper into the game, 1, there's more rounds, but 2, everything you do each round makes the next round feel like you can do more and more.
Yeah.
Here, each consecutive round never felt like it was benefiting from the last round, unless it was in regard to resources to buy things. But even then, you were limited to 1 action.
Yeah.
Really, per like thing you chose to do. There was really no long chain.
Yeah, and the other thing was like when you activate a golem and turn it sideways, there's only 1 or 2 things that allow you to remove that and reactivate it. But it's like, oh, if I have 3 of them, I use my action to do that. But now I found one that gives me the ability to activate another one. well, I can't do that because I've already activated it. And
Yep.
it's sitting sideways. Because there was one time you went and had that. Where, like,
Yep.
one of the things, it's like, oh, activate a golem. Well, so
Yep.
I can't because they're already activated.
Yeah, so there's little things like that.
So
But,
we also never had the strategy where we had all 6 out at the same time.
yeah, that'd be interesting. You would definitely have to focus on that area because it makes it difficult with your track. So the more you have out, the more movement you have to move them up on this thing, which ultimately is going to make them like run off the board and cost you points in the end anyway. So I don't think you're ever supposed to have 6 out at one time. I think you're supposed to like kill them off and then get as many out as possible. So like if you kill off, 4, and then you have 2 out, if you kill off 3 and have 3 out, then you're going to bank in on the 4 that are made here and the ones that are dead down here.
I mean, it'd be interesting to be like, after, like, turn round 1 to, like, have the first ones move over and then just get 3 more out. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, maybe.
So they're like, oh, at the beginning, and then you kill them when they get towards the end.
Possibly. Yeah.
But, all right.
Okay, so then components are next.
Yeah, so we had a few enhancements through Etsy, so we're not going to include that on our components.
Yeah, so we're not talking about these or the trays.
But all of these are the deluxe edition actual components from this game.
Actually, yeah, so these are the stickers on here, the only thing that didn't come with it. So when it comes to components, there's nothing that actually added to the game except for the stickers.
Yeah.
Just like
exactly.
Yeah, this is storage.
Oh,
I guess this would be component because the gameplay. Yeah, you're
right. So for components, I gave this a solid 4.5. So overall, you have little miniatures. They did shape them to look like the different aspects of the golem, the student. Don't know why this is the shape it is for a rabbi, but that's fine.
Because the rabbi hat.
Oh, sure.
It's a person with a rabbi hat.
Even better. You have your little disc to track as things move. Those are all great. I don't mind these small little ones sitting on your board here.
No,
I think
those were fine, yeah.
The only thing I would comment, but this is kind of going to go more into, I guess the component of this is kind of my dog, is it could have been raised up. You could have like little raised edges that you're like sticking them into.
So you don't miss it, yeah.
Well, because they kept moving around.
Yeah.
So like as you set up your golem and you're flipping this, it'd be nice to have just like a little raised area that's just sitting inside.
That's a problem that only a few of us have.
It happens.
Not me.
But yeah, overall, I think everything's set up on the board nicely. It doesn't take up too much space. The player board, I know we've had in other games where it's just like it's too large of a board, too small of a board.
Yep.
Component-wise, it is just some cardboard thing, but it's decently sturdy.
Yeah, it hasn't warped at all the entire time I've had it.
And then component in terms of the map, pretty well done, folds up nicely, gives you everything you need pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm at a 4 for components. I think again the one thing that docked me down on component wise is probably just there's a lot of the cardboard things that could have been actual wooden pieces. Nothing went above and beyond. I guess for components to get a 5 from me, it needs to really wow me with like the components that are in game. So the thing that really kept it at a 4. So the synagogue that came with the game is not this one. It's a really cheap kind of like cardboard one that felt super flimsy. And then the tray that goes underneath, the tray that went underneath it felt more sturdy, like that plastic tray that came with it. And so that kind of knocked it back component-wise for me. But yeah, the boards, I like that these are really sturdy. They didn't warp at all the entire time. Like I said, we've had them. These two, typically when you get bigger boards, they start to kind of like warp over time and get folded.
Or bend, yeah.
Yeah, bend because of moisture or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't mind the tokens like these that go on the board and stuff. Yeah, I think having a section that was, a little bit raised would have been nice, potentially. The whole aspect of putting your like piece on the knowledge board as well was kind of weird to me, that you like end up flipping over, because that could have just, I don't know, like I understand like the flipping aspect, but again, if you're gonna do something like that, then like have a piece of your board not there, or just have
that like a slot, like,
or just have this whole side section be like this side section over here, which was a little just separate tabs
over there.
Yeah,
true.
So there's little things like that were kind of off and weird, and that felt kind of like they took the cheap route, which is why this kind of fell back to a 4 for me.
Yeah. And then we roll into our design, which would be the iconography of the board, the actual colors and presentation of everything.
Yeah. So design got a 3 from me. So the iconography is clear, like in regard that it's different from one another, but there's a lot of it, and it can be a little confusing. We get to go to the rule book a lot in regard to like, what does this icon mean? What does that icon mean? How does this work? How does that work? The use of like slashes and the X. So they use a slash to mean or, but then they also have a thing that is the X means per, so like 3 per, yada yada. And so they did a lot of like weird things that aren't naturally very clear to the human mind. Like it took a second to figure out and remember, like, oh, that's how this works. And then just a pet peeve of mine is this track on top. So we have, now I'll put up here. So there's a blue track, a yellow track, and this is supposed to be a red track based on the red tiles, but it's green. And that just really bothers me. This is red around it, sure, but the middle part is green. And that is just an annoying design to me overall. The design of everything else, the actual like the golem like clay looking, the artwork that's on the board I think is great. But I think there's too much iconography and it's too random and non-universal. And then the color mismatch on the board really bugged me.
Fair point. I gave mine a 3.5.
Okay.
So similar rating here. So start with the player board. I do like the design of the little tiles where one side is kind of like grayed out with a red number showing, okay, this is the cost in order to change this. And then the other side is nice, vibrant color to whatever color scheme you're going with on what the reward is. The one thing that did bug kind of both of us is the top section for books here. When you pay this cost and flip it, you don't get this benefit instantly. Minora's endgame, which we'll talk about later. But these benefits are only when you put books in there. And there's no identifier on here that tells you that.
It's inconsistent with the artifact side. When you unlock an artifact, you do get the benefit.
Yeah, which is weird. The one thing I think, because this is a nice board, you could have added like another inch or two at the bottom, similar to Earth, if you check out that review we talked about, where, to your point, just explain all of the little symbols. Sure, the main three here, clay, gold, and knowledge, are just resources. We see those. Those are visually in front of us as resources. But everything else, you have these fists that sometimes don't make sense because these say +2, which means you move up 2. You don't get 2 more than the number you're on.
And sometimes you had like the icon used that says to kill a golem is the same as saying per however many that are dead.
Yeah, and
instead
there'd
of
be a different cemetery symbol.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a little nuances and or things that are just kind of don't make sense, or duplicate symbols for 2 different things. I do agree with the red, but I didn't dock it too much.
Only half a point.
Yeah,
for you.
It was like I understood. Like
full point for me. Unforgivable. Yeah. It looks gray to him anyway. He's colorblind, so.
Overall, the rest of the coloring and design on the board was really cool.
Yeah.
The cards that go up the top, the character cards and everything, were pretty interesting. The one thing I'm going to call out for, I guess, design on the character cards was, you call them character cards, you're in like a university. There's no like name of the person or a little backstory or anything on that card.
No flavor text. Yeah.
There's no flavor text. Like, it wouldn't have been that hard to add like a little line at the bottom to say professor of sorcery or whatever it is. Just to add something cool to be like, okay, why do we care about this character? But yeah, overall, I still understood most of it, but it took going through the rulebook a while to kind of get the hang of things.
Yeah. All right. Now we are on to storage. What's your storage score?
My storage score.
And disclaimer for storage as well. So I got the game a while ago. I have replaced the storage with some Etsy style stuff like these, press board containers and stuff like the synagogue as well that came with it. So we don't have the original storage. So we did look up some videos to remind ourselves what the original storage was for the game to help us give our rating here.
Yes. So my storage score, it's going to be simply a 2. It's not horrible. There is plastic bags for all the players. So everything that you see in this little tray here would just go into a plastic bag, 1 for each player color. So I do appreciate that. Obviously, the boards all just kind of fold up and stack, and the rulebook stacks on top of it. But there are a decent amount of cards and other tiles in this game, which would have been nice to just have a tray in the normal base version of the box where you can just stack all these tiles up. The only benefit, I guess I would say, to the tiles in that scenario is all the tiles are color coordinated, so you could easily separate them pretty quickly if they do get messed up in the box. Unlike some other games where maybe it's just like a number on the back where you have numbers 1, 2, and 3, and that takes way longer. These are color coded. But yeah, it's a very simple box. Things are kind of just layered up in there. The marble tray is nice, the little plastic black one they give you. So that's a nice thing for the marbles, but that's for gameplay.
Yeah, it's not for storage.
For storing the marbles will still be rolling all over the box. The box bounces, they're flying everywhere.
Yep.
So you'd have to put those in a bag as well.
Yeah. I want to check that while I give you my score there. Pretty sure. All right. Yeah, I gave it a 2 as well. A lot of the same reasons. So my biggest pet peeve are games that come with a lot of components, but don't give you a place to put the components. I understand the baggy thing, but I think we're past the baggy thing. I think that we as gamers deserve better than a little flimsy bag to put these cardboard components in whose corners and sides can get dinged up from being shoved into a bag. Like, give me something where I can lay them flat or lay them next to each other in a nice way. There's plenty of ways to do this inexpensively. So it's just kind of taking that time to figure out that storage. So not big into the bag thing. And that's my main issue is I don't like a box that's just filled with stuff. Like, give me a box that is organized. That way I can also get it out to the table easier. Like, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to have to buy, these organizers and stuff for the game. I don't want to have to buy something, this is really nice and I love it. If I didn't have to buy this, if it came with the game initially, that's amazing. Like, give me everything to make your game as easy as possible to get out and onto the table, and it'll get out onto the table more, honestly.
Yeah, especially if you're getting like a deluxe version of the game. Like that, right. I think in watching all of the Game Found Kickstarter like lineups of, here's the tier levels. Like the base version, again, bags, it'd be a little bit nicer to have something better than bags. But if you're getting a platinum deluxe version, whatever you're calling the second tier as a game designer, that should kind of be the first thing you think of, expansion packs as well as better storage. Mm-hmm. So that people are like, I'd be willing to pay that extra $20, $30 if I get an expansion and I know I'm going to get nice storage, because going on Etsy, this probably costs $20, $30 anyway.
Yeah, more than that usually. But
yeah. Shipping, everything, yeah. So it's like, just throw that in there where if you're mass producing it probably costs $2, $3. Mm-hmm. Should be a nice addition into like those upper version tier levels of games.
Yeah, if you're wondering where I did get this, if you do have a copy of Golem yourself, this is the Dice Troyers. So dice as in like dice, and then Troyers, so Troyers, like destroyers, but Dice Troyers. They have a shop on Etsy, and they also have a website where you can go and you can get the organizer and the sit and got combo.
Sweet.
All right. So overall, both of our scores were 3.5.
They're tied across the board, technically. Exactly tied.
Yeah. Like all the way across the board. And then so Bald and Board Games, overall rulebook score came out to an average of 4.5. So again, I think it came down to the rulebook is very clear. It's very straightforward, teaches you the game well and very quickly. But when it comes to that iconography and having to go back to it for reference, that's where it suffered, to where even though it is in the back of the book, it could have just been on the back page. Or
had like player aid,
anything like that. Yeah, just to have out for the players. Gameplay across the board was a 4. For all those reasons that we gave it. A lot of options, but beyond that, the main thing that dinged it for both of us is each consecutive round doesn't feel any more special than the previous, and then a lot of times you don't feel like you're actually making headway in the game at all with your characters on the board visually. For the components. Overall, we came out to an average of 4. So again, 4, I think, really because everything is made very nicely. But there's nothing here that really went that extra mile to make it special. The dual layered trays, anything of that sort that would have made it that much more fun and compelling to play.
Yeah.
Design, our average came out to 3. I think for both of us, it was the amount of iconography and the confusion and how it's used double sometimes. Yeah. And then more so for me, but a little bit for Steve, was that color inconsistency on the board on the top row. And for storage, across the board, we were 2 for the reason that we pretty much had the same reason. Bags are cool. Thank you. So that's why I'm not getting a 1. But other than that, try harder. So overall, all the way across the board, myself, Board and Bald and Board together, the rating for Golem is 3.5. You know what that means? That makes it a must play, a certified Baldwin Board Games
Yes.
must play.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get this on our table again. Similar to if you watch our rating view from last week of Earth, we made one mistake playing this and how the tile's set up, so we'll definitely go back and fix that. So that'll get added to our Andromeda's Edge collection of games we played wrong the first time.
Yeah, we're going to make a list of those.
But this is another game where playing with 2 players was interesting.
Right.
But there's added things here for if you play with 3 or 4 players.
You have more options.
And you have more options, but also you potentially have some other stuff going on, like people are taking more book cards. So maybe the card you want, we're in a 2-player game. Okay, it's no problem. I'll get it because I have knowledge he doesn't. Now is a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be another game where we'll play it with 3, 4 players, see how it plays out. We'll put any comments in if it does change any perspectives we have on our ratings.
I wish they had one rule in this game, and I was thinking about this last game.
They have a lot of rules in this game.
It just came up again. One they don't have is I wish there was a sorry mechanic in this game.
Oh, where if you land on someone's spot, it kicks them back?
So I wish that you could not purposefully kill your golem.
Oh, okay.
So if somebody lands exactly on the spot where your
that's
golem...
not sorry, that's Parcheesi.
No, sorry, also. If you land exactly on their spot, you kick them back.
Oh, Parcheesi does that.
Yeah. So I wish that was the case where, like, if my golem's here, and because you get to choose whichever way to move your golems, right? And a lot of times it doesn't really matter. So here it would give it a matter, like, oh, I'm going to move this guy too. Stop him here, kill your golem who's there, and it would go in turn order. And then the person whose golem died, okay, they're going to put it down here, and they'll get a benefit for being killed. So there's that give and take. So get rid of like being able to kill your golems entirely yourself. Maybe the only way you can kill your golem yourself is by pushing it all the way to the end of the track. But then you're going to suffer VP first to do that.
Yeah, or knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, or knowledge to do that. So I do wish that was more. I wish that was part of the game because that would make this
a little more
interactive between each other.
Yeah, because like right now the only let's say like blocking that you can do against your opponent, like you're just playing your own game.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do to stop your opponent is two things. Hate drafting marbles.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, he needs a blue marble to get his pattern up here. There's only one blue marble left. I'm going to take it.
Or I'm going to pass because I don't need it, but I don't want him to have it.
Yeah. Or for the rabbi track.
Yeah.
Because you can only do the top rabbi actions once and only one person can do them. Knowing, like I did them the first time we played, where, oh, Nick, his golem's way up here. He's going to have to pay a cost.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this one specific one that just eliminates my cost for the turn. Not because I needed it, but because I don't want him to have it, because I want him to pay the cost.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're right. There is everything that happens on this board is individual.
Yep.
There's no way for your students to interact with each other or the golems. And yeah, there's no way to kind of like push someone back a space or even like you kind of want to push them forward a space. Like maybe not land on the golem and then kill them, or even like land on them and force them up a space. Or force them back a space.
Something I like the idea of you as a person choosing to kill a golem, right? You can choose to kill him, but doing so, they're going to get some sort of benefit on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I like that duality of, okay, I want to kill his golem. So that way, because maybe like the ones that are dead ultimately subtract points from you.
Yeah.
Right?
Which kind of does because of the movement.
Right, exactly. So
I kind of like the aspect to be like in turn order, be like you have to move in turn order.
Right.
So let's say you're first, you move, and I'm like, oh, he's going for this action here. I'm going to move my golem to his spot and kick him back one.
Right. So then
now that kind of, as the person who's in second, if it's based on VP only, you have to change this to be based on VP. Be like, oh, I can now have a chance to catch up because I'm forcing him not to do the action he wants to do.
Right. If that was the case, then it would do, I think, a turn by turn. Okay, go around and move one golem at a time. Because then you can make it more chess-like. Okay, he's going to try and keep me back to move this guy first. Yeah. He only has 1-2 moves. He's going to move there. And then it comes back on me. Then I'll move my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be kind of interesting to be like, now you have to strategically move it based on your positioning in turn order.
Well, Cranio Creations, if you ever decide to do another version of this game,
we have some thoughts.
And being game designers ourselves, we would love to help you out if you're looking for it. No, everybody who plays games has a version of the game that they would like to see because everyone loves games for a different reason. People who like the more casual game probably love that this is like play by yourself and just try to get points.
Yeah.
Steve and I, our whole thing is going head to head.
Yeah.
That's why we're sitting across the table. That's why our logo is us butting heads.
Yeah.
It's because we argue.
We
We
all-
like to go head to head quite literally.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we also love to play games where, like, if
We
you're
can
in second
screw each other
place,
over.
you're not out.
yeah.
And it did come to a point where, like, when we played Thursday, I knew I couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
Because you had artifacts unlocked, and you're getting things every turn.
Yep.
And there was no way for me to ever get to that point.
Yep.
So that's why I think the whole movement thing to be like, okay, if you're able to know exactly what you're doing and just do it every single time,
Well, because if you could force
you're
me,
just
if you could cost me knowledge, then I would have to spend VP to take care of my golems.
exactly.
And then that could save you the game right there by just forcing me to spend VP constantly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, let us know what your thoughts are. If you've played Golem, let us know if you like it, if you don't like it, if you agree with the changes that we just suggested. If you haven't played it, go watch our playthrough video to see if it's something that you would like. And if you haven't, you're struggling to understand it, we have a how-to video for you too up on our YouTube channel as well. And if you want to see us play these things live, join us on Twitch at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Thursdays and 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Saturdays. Saturdays, we typically do our campaign games, but that's also where we unbox and do a rulebook rundown and playthrough of new Kickstarters. So
Yeah.
definitely worth joining.
Check
on
out our
those.
Instagram. Just after Thanksgiving, the day or two later, we'll have our December lineup listed.
Yeah.
Some of them will be question marks. We're waiting on some things to be delivered.
You want to tease the theme?
But it will be a very combative theme.
Okay, that's the tease. I was like, rather going to tell you what the theme was, and he's like, it'll be
That's
a comeback. No, you're fine.
not telling
You're
it
good.
up.
You're good. You're fine.
Every game's combative.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like that's a little vague. Yeah, more so. Combative in your mind, not ours.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into our campaign game now because we are recording this on a Saturday, and right now we are currently playing Ice of Farian Guard. So if you're curious about that beast of a game, definitely check that out on our YouTube or come join us on Twitch, like I said, Saturdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us here as we gave you our review of Golem by Cranio Creations. I'm Bald,
On board.
and we will see you in Prague.